welcome back to my channel. So it has been a minute since I've done some real sewing content. I know that I've done a couple of videos on like the productivity and like the organizational side, but it's been a really long time since I've done any sort of like sew with me or project planning or anything like that. And I want to change that because if you've been around for any length of time, probably doesn't matter what video, at some point I will probably mention sewing because I am low-key obsessed. And because this has become such, excuse me Ties, because this has become such a huge part of my life, I feel like I want to start making more content on YouTube. And I know a lot of you guys are here for the like productivity and bullet journal kind of things, but hopefully this will be kind of interesting and maybe you'll stick around and watch it anyway. I don't know, we'll see. But this is the kind of content that is making me excited above and beyond all of the bullet journal and productivity stuff, which I will keep on doing, have no fear. But I really just wanted to start sort of a really creative video project, kind of for me, but also to share with you guys. So initially, I had this idea that I would do what I would call like a me-made style video or me-made styling videos where I take a piece of clothing that I have made and I style it a couple of different ways and show you like how I would wear this one piece in kind of different ways. And I have had this idea honestly for a couple of months and just never have gotten around to filming it. And so I finally realized maybe that wasn't the series that I needed to be making. And lately, if you follow me on Instagram, you might have gotten an inkling of this. I have been obsessed with watching Rachel Maxey, which if you're at all into sewing and or vintage stuff, like go watch her because like epic. Also just like I love her style of humor in her videos, so that just like kind of speaks to me. Anyway, so she does a lot of kind of vintage styling videos, but she does a lot of like thrifting and making her own clothes, and she's not super concerned with being like historically accurate. And while I love the historically accurate stuff, I mean, I also, of course, watch Bernadette Banner. It's not really my goal right now, I guess. So I would say that I am more interested in wearing styles that really make me feel comfortable, and I've noticed that certain vintage styles kind of fit that criteria that I'm looking for. But I also am a teacher, you know what I mean? Like I can't show up to work in something that looks like a costume because I'm a teacher, you know what I mean? Like I am dealing with my students. I feel like at some point maybe admin would say something, I don't know, so far they haven't. And also just like that's not really my like vibe, you know what I mean? Like I would not fit into a historically accurate look because I, you know, wear giant circle glasses and I have a shaved head and like just, I like mixing and matching different things. And so the kind of part of vintage that appeals to me are kind of certain silhouettes, if you will, and making them a little bit more modern to go with things that are already my style. And actually I intentionally wore this shirt today because this kind of falls into that. So this is an indie pattern. It's from the Friday Pattern Company and it's called the Wilder Gown, which I've made the shirt version. And it's one of those things that's got this kind of like vaguely vintage look to it. It's got like, I can tighten up the ties and make this more of a high neck, like kind of cinched collar. But it's a very like kind of modern looking shirt with just sort of like vintage vibes almost, depending on how you style it. So I had this idea that let's do a series on trying to kind of finagle my current wardrobe plus some things that I will hopefully be making in the near future into a more like vintage feel, because I feel like that is something that would be sustainable for me. I feel like that's something that I would be excited to wear every day and all of that. And I've already noticed that in terms of the things that I've made and the things that I have in my wardrobe, I gravitate towards certain pieces. So I gravitate towards dresses, honestly, more than like anything else. I find myself gravitating towards skirts and dresses, and the dresses that I've made have been getting like progressively longer to the point that the latest dress that I made is literally like it touches the floor if I don't belt it. So it feels like I've been kind of like inching towards this, so today's video is kind of to introduce this series, and it's gonna be chatty, like who are we kidding? It's my channel, like it's gonna be chatty. But I wanted to kind of talk about how I sort of got to this point, and I will show you some of my like sketches that I've kind of been working on that have been really kind of motivating me to start working on some pieces. So in terms of like getting to this point, when I started sewing, so back in April of 2019, so it's been like a year and a half now, which is like so it doesn't feel like it's been that long. Anyway, when I got started sewing again, I pretty quickly found like historical dress and history bounding and all of that. Probably was a couple of months in. And I actually started out by sort of plotting out this idea for a historically accurate costume that was like a Lady Ravenclaw vibes, like rich blues, maybe like a copper blouse with a waistcoat and like all of this. And obviously it was very heavily influenced by Bernadette Banner's Lady Sherlock vibe, but I obviously didn't want to copy her entire thing. So I was like, ooh, like Ravenclaw is my house. Like that would be a really cool kind of project to work on. And I was going to do all of the underpinnings, you know, like make the combinations and the corset cover and like all the pieces from like the bottom out kind of thing. And I did like this whole design phase, and then I just kind of stopped. Actually, no, I also bought the combinations pattern and I started a mock-up for the bodice, and then I just kind of stopped and I never really got any further. And I kind of tabled the whole idea of like history bounding and all of that for a while because I was like I want to make stuff that I'm actually gonna wear. Like I don't really go anywhere where I would have a need for a costume kind of thing, which is kind of what that felt like still as I was planning. And I had this idea that I would wear some of it during like my daily life, but it just didn't really feel that doable, I guess. It didn't really feel that feasible. So I kind of tabled the whole project with this idea that eventually I would come back to it. Part of it was also I didn't have the skills necessarily to do it. And so I was like, all right, we're just gonna mess with that later. And I, you know, kept on my merry way making a bunch of stuff and, you know, realized over the past couple of months that when I'm making pieces, I'm really looking for pieces that are going to be, you know, tops that are kind of oversized slash blousey that I'm going to tuck into some kind of a bottom, so a skirt or a pant type situation that's going to be cinched at the waist and like more flowy. You know, looking for dresses, and most of my dresses I kind of intentionally make with the idea that I'm going to layer them. Like I have like a racer back tank top dress that was the first dress I ever made, and I love it. It's like this really nice black like linen, and I almost never wear it with like that top visible. I almost always layer something or multiple somethings over top of it, and I just like kind of seeing what I was making and what I was really gravitating towards. Finally it kind of clicked, like, okay, these are the silhouettes that I really like. You know what I mean? Like I have this certain, I love like oversized dresses, and I love this idea of having an oversized dress that I can wear like that, or that I could belt, or that I could put some sort of a top that cinches things in over top of it and like kind of change the thing. I like really versatile pieces, even if maybe the one piece itself is very like patterned or something like that. I want to have something that I can wear in multiple ways. And so as I'm looking for patterns, it's actually kind of what, like even without realizing it, that was kind of the things that I was gravitating towards were really things like that I could hack. So a pattern that I could hack and change into different styles, things that I could layer over top of each other and all of that. Like obviously fall and winter are like my jam, because summer it's kind of hard to layer that much. But I kind of started paying attention to the silhouettes that I really gravitated towards and to the types of patterns that I made over and over, and kind of came to this realization, especially after starting to watch more history bounding and specifically more of Rachel Maxey's videos, that like actually I have always had this kind of, split style in my head where I like very feminine like dresses and stuff, and I also like masculine inspired pieces. So you'll see a lot of times where I have sort of a dress, but that's in like a really dark fabric, or you know, I'll take a dress that has like ruffles, but I won't ever add like lace or stuff to it. You know what I mean? Like I have kind of these different things, and at some point I need to get a waistcoat. I actually used to wear a lot of like vests and waistcoats when I was in high school, and kind of passed that particular phase and got rid of them. But when I'm looking at different outfits, the ones that I'm really drawn towards are the ones that have like a big blousey top and a waistcoat and like a skirt or something like that, or a waistcoat over a dress, or you know, things like that. And so as I have been making more and more things, my wish list has gotten more and more like, ooh, I want to make this dress, or I want to work on making this thing, and it's been less about like, pants aren't a thing that I really sew that much. I was working on Persephone pants for a long time. I started them probably a year ago, and I was on the third mock-up because getting the fit right was just like really difficult for how I like the fit to be, how my body is shaped and all of that. And I finally just a couple weeks ago was like, I haven't touched this in months, like literally months and months and months. And normally if something is a project that I really want to do, I will get to it eventually. And I haven't even gotten to the point of like getting past the mock-up stage of this. I don't think these are pants that I like really want to wear. And I finally acknowledged to myself that the reason I haven't done them is because they're a very fitted like 70s sailor style pant, but that's not my vibe. I think they look really cool. I love seeing them on people on Instagram. Like I think they're a gorgeous, like it's a gorgeous pattern, but it's not something that really fits into my wardrobe because that's not what I wear. And so I finally like tabled those mock-ups. They've since been relegated to the scrap pile so I can use them to do backings for like coasters and stuff like that. So I'm trying to be more intentional now about the things that I decide to make and all of that. And one of the things kind of throughout this process, I've realized that the silhouettes that I really like fall into some historical time periods that I really like as well. So I really enjoy sort of the Edwardian Victorian, and I'm not historically accurate, don't come at me, I know, but the kinds that I'm thinking of are specifically that like shirt waist with a vest and a long skirt, or a skirt with like a kind of a blouse like this, a little bit like poofy or whatever. But again, the historically accurate versions of a lot of these would have like oodles and oodles of lace and all of that, which is really pretty, and maybe at some point I will get into that. But for right now, that's not really my vibe. I like little bits of frill and all of this, but I'm not super huge on the lace side of things. And then the other side is I've always really gravitated towards the 50s style, which is again kind of like that blouse, like shirt, button-down shirt with like a circle skirt kind of thing. And again, like these are two very, like it's basically this sort of like big, small, big sort of silhouette, and like Edwardian is going to be a little bit narrower on the skirt, whereas the 50s is going to be a little bit wider. But like those are two silhouettes that are very much me, and they're silhouettes that I really like. So long story short, I am planning to make a couple of pieces that are going to kind of fall into those silhouettes a little bit more intentionally than I have been, because I have been kind of like, oh, I really like this thing, I'm gonna make this, and not really thought about like, why do I like it? Whereas now I'm kind of like, oh, these are the things that I'm looking for in a skirt or a shirt or a dress or whatever. And so I'm going to try and be a little bit more intentional, and I thought it might be fun to kind of take you guys along with it. So this will be kind of the introductory episode to Vaguely Vintage, which we'll see how it goes. Who knows how many episodes there will end up being. So what I thought I would do in this video was to kind of take you through some of my design processes, to how I have picked out some pieces that I want to make, talking specifically about the patterns that I'm hopefully going to get in the near-ish future to work on. And the first project is actually going to be a dress project based on this, but I'm going to kind of hack it to make it more me. So we will see how this goes. I have no idea how frequently I'll make episodes for this. I have no idea if this is going to be content you guys like, but honestly, I'm really excited about it, and I want to kind of play with different filming styles in terms of like sewing content, and I don't really get to do that as much with bullet journal stuff just because of the way that it's done. So yeah, I'm super excited about this new project. Hopefully you guys will be too. And without further ado, let's head on over and I will show you some of my design ideas. So here is my sewing sketchbook, and I have a ton of stuff in here. I don't think I've ever really flipped through. I'll do just like quick flip through so you can see. So for example, these are a pair of pants that I saw in a store that I really liked. They had little knife pleats and little darted legs. I actually did darted legs like this on my LL Studio pants. So just kind of like ideas for things I'd maybe want to work on making. A lot of these are kind of more just for ideas rather than necessarily things I'm gonna end up making. These are some things that I might get to, but I think I'm gonna have to kind of redo a lot of this or like re-go through everything and really decide if there are projects I wanna make or not. But part of the fun is just going through and kind of making the lists and then seeing what actually ends up getting made. So for example, something like this I actually did make, and I honestly don't really wear it that much because it's like slightly above knee length and it's a little bit short for kind of the style that I want. It's also not fitted quite right. But yeah, so this is my jumpsuit page, which is kind of over the top there. So just a bunch of like random little things. This was when I got a bunch of fabric during confinement and I did a bunch of sewing. Ideas for my mom, for my dad. This was an idea for my Numi tote bag, which I actually ended up doing. This was another kind of thing. And you'll see I've done maybe half the things on this page, and there's other things that I'm probably not gonna get around to, which is totally fine. These are my someday ideas, so things that I'm like, oh, I wanna work on this. Actually, this one needs to get done sooner rather than later. I've had the Amelie pattern for a long time at this point, and I really just need to work on it. I've been kind of putting it off just because I have to actually fit the bodice, and I'm being lazy, so we need to work on that. So these are some ideas. I had some ideas for like wardrobe holes, so things I want to do. So again, I need to go back through and kind of check some stuff out and see if there's anything that like I really do still want to work on and I just haven't gotten to because I don't have fabric or I don't have the pattern or I don't know what, and see if there are things that I'm just like, this was a fun design idea, but I don't actually want to make this, which is totally fine. That's part of the process. This was actually a self-drafted top based on the bodice of my Peggy Pinafore that I kind of hacked into a ruffled wrap top, which again, I made the mock-up version of this and haven't ever made the real one, and I honestly don't know that I will. Like, it was just kind of a fun little design project to see if I could do it. All my notes on my studio pants. This is actually, my friend wore this dress, and so I took some pictures and then I tried to deconstruct it to figure out how I would make it. Not saying that I will make it, but just like I thought it would be cool to figure out if I could figure out how to make it, if that makes sense. So this was actually the latest dress that I made. It's this ankle length, it's the peppermint maxi dress, which I love. It's a little bit too big, but actually in terms of the way that I like to wear my dresses, it actually works out pretty well. So I'm not mad about that. And then this was originally going to be a super hacked box top, but then I ended up getting the Wilder top. And so that is kind of the one that I wear with this dress more for the moment because it's the only top I have like that. This was for my color blocked funnel neck dress. So this is what we're looking for. So kind of, I don't know, this kind of started was this idea of doing a 10 by 10 for fall. So the 10 by 10 challenge where you pick 10 pieces of clothing and you wear them for 10 days and you mix and match the outfits. I'll have to see if I can link the Instagram account that started that. I can't remember off the top of my head. And so I had this idea of doing a me-made 10 by 10 design challenge. So basically using only fabrics that are in my stash and patterns that I already own. Could I come up with basically a capsule collection of 10 garments that I could mix and match and wear for fall? Now, this was never really intended to be something that I actually sewed. However, there are some pieces on here that I probably will end up making. Actually, all of these are probably ones that I'm going to eventually end up making. So basically I got 9 things done, and I kind of just like abandoned it because I got busy with work and all of that. But the idea was that I have these Terra pants, which are, if you size down, they can be a high-waisted baggy leg trouser, which I was like, oh, I don't wear a lot of like pants that much, but that is actually a style of pant that I would wear, and it would be nice for some of my tops if I don't want to wear a skirt or whatever, that I could wear these pants. So I do have this, and it was going to be originally in a charcoal raw silk, but I have since bought a dark sage corduroy that I want to make those out of. I wanted to make a short sleeve but long pant version in black double gauze of the Zadie jumpsuit, which I might still do that. This is the top I'm actually currently wearing. This is from the Breaking the Pattern book. It's just a button up with little shoulder vents that I think are super cute. This is also from Breaking the Pattern. I wanted to do a mock turtleneck because I wear turtlenecks and mock turtlenecks, like either long sleeve or short or tank top, all the time as layering pieces, and I definitely need more. I've only got like, I think 2 sleeveless and 2 turtleneck, like long sleeve ones that I can actually wear for layering, and a lot of times in the winter I will wear like 1 a day through the work week, so I need at least like 1 or 2 more. This, another one that I wear for layering all the time, are my Axis tanks, and this was one, I've already made this, but I actually have 3 black ones, but I wanted to do another one of those. I have had the Dion I'm not sure, the Dion Duster pattern for a long time. I love it. I want to make it. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. It requires a lot of jersey, so I think that's kind of why, is I just haven't gotten the fabric yet. And then I want to make a Wilder gown, and then the other was the maxi dress that I've already made. So as you can see, like, I've already made these 2. This is already in my collection, and then this one I'm actually going to work on. This is going to be the first Vaguely Vintage project, and then these were ones that I was thinking of. So this was kind of the initial design phase that I was looking at, and I had all of the fabrics that I was going to use over here. So this was like really kind of the first project, or the first kind of activity I did, I know these are the silhouettes that I really like, so what can I make with the patterns that I already have that would really fit into the things that I already own and with each other kind of thing. So that was kind of the initial one. I also did some planning on doing like a A-line skirt, which I might still eventually make this, but it was really, honestly, I was walking to work and I was like thinking through how I would actually make it. So I wrote it down in a notebook that I keep with me at work, and I eventually just transferred it over here. So that was another one. This is casual stuff, which those are projects I am gonna work on, but not yet. This was kind of an initial planning for the Terra pants, and this is for the Wilder. So the Wilder is kind of what like sort of initially started this, where I had heard about this pattern for a long time. It's kind of a cult staple in the sewing community on Instagram. And initially I was like, oh, that's not really my style. I don't think I'm gonna like get that one. Like it's cute and all, but like I don't think it's really for me. And then I started making more and more sort of gathered dresses, and I wear them a ton. Like my gathered dresses are probably my most worn items in my closet. And so I was like, maybe that is something I want to do. And then I started looking at more like history bounding and vintage kind of stuff. And I was like, ooh, that like neckline, that really kind of fits in with this sort of vintage vibe, but like modernized. And so eventually I bought the dress, or yes, I bought the gown is what they call it, but dress pattern. And once I kind of did that and I made the top and I made the dress and I wore those together, I was like, yes, we have unlocked a level. Like this is going to be the thing that happens. So what I did next is on this paper, these haven't even gotten transferred into my sketchbook yet. I just took a piece of paper and I started plotting out some like really specific outfits that I could work on that I would be able to work into my wardrobe. So this is kind of an Edwardian inspired one. I've wanted the walking skirt pattern for probably a year. It's the one that I plan to do with that initial history bounding project. I still want to do it, but I think what I want to do is make it actually an ankle length so that it's a little bit more wearable. Still long because I like my long skirts, but like not floor length kind of thing. And then I recently found a very small pattern company. It's Bella Loves Patterns, and she has the Vita, it's the Vita pattern, and it is literally in the description is an Edwardian inspired gown and top. And I was like, perfect. So, you know, until I get this, I will obviously wear my Wilder, but the one thing about the Wilder is it's a raglan sleeve. And so if you kind of can see like the way the sleeves go, these are super great drawings, I know. The way the sleeves go, they actually make it so that your range of movement with your arms is a little bit limited just because the way the like arm side is cut. And so I do eventually want to get this pattern because it's a much more fitted blouse, and I think I'll just have a better range of movement overall. But that was one that I was like, okay, literally these two things and a self-drafted petticoat, and like we're good to go. Plus I have, you know, this top I could wear with some of my other skirts. I could wear it tucked into a pair of pants. I could also, with this skirt, I could wear, you know, just a turtleneck if I want to go really like low-key modern. I could wear my Wilder. Like I could, with these two, I can kind of mix and match a bunch of different things. So that is the first one. The next one, since again, here, we'll move this. The next one, since again, I really like the 50s style, is the Seraste top. As you saw, I was on my design challenge. I really want to make that one. So I was like, oh, that would be a perfect one to start. It's going to look very modern, but that's okay because then I can pair it with a vintage circle skirt, which I actually have. This is, who did this one? I'll have to link it in the description box. I can't remember. I think it might be Rebecca Page. I don't remember. But this is I think it's got like a back zip, fitted waist circle skirt, and then I also want to make a 50s style petticoat because I just think that would be really fun, and like I could wear it with or without the petticoat depending on like what look I'm kind of going for. And then like this top, and obviously I could switch out other tops that I have depending on the color that I do for this. I could wear my Wilder top, I could wear the Vita, like I could wear different things. And I'm not, as I've said, I'm not really concerned with being historically accurate in any way, shape, or form, but I am looking for things that are, you know, I'm really kind of fascinated by dressing a little bit more vintage, and the silhouettes really fall into things that I already want to wear, so it kind of works out that way. But I'm not above mixing and matching different, you know, an Edwardian top with a 50s skirt, like doesn't matter to me. Also, I could totally wear this with the walking skirt. Then the next one is, this is gonna be our first project, so I'm not gonna go too in depth with this, but I want to make a wilder dress. However, I'm going to hack it because the current style makes it very much a long kind of nightgowny dress, and I wanna play around with the fit a little bit so that it'll fit my needs as a gathered dress, which again, we'll talk about that a little bit later. Or in another video, not later, in another video. And then the final thing was going through and kind of looking at this, and I was like, okay, if I wanted to make all of these projects, what would I have to do? Well, I really only need to buy 2 patterns because all the rest of the patterns I already own. I do want to make another wilder top because I think it would be good to have that to go with some other skirts and stuff. And then these are just some other things. So I want to make a pinafore because I really like wearing other tops under dresses. That's one of the reasons why I like the peppermint maxi dress so much, is because it's basically a pinafore style that like you have to wear a top under. At least I do, for the way that mine fits. Like I have to wear a top under it, even if it's just like a tank top or something. Like I have to wear some kind of a top. So I want to look into doing like a pinafore thing. I also want to make an apron because I will wear aprons a lot when I cook or do the dishes or even eat lunch if I'm wearing some of my nicer clothes. And my current apron, I think I'm going to relegate to a craft apron, and then I want to have a nice pretty apron to wear that'll go kind of with my stuff. So that's kind of the initial design phase for what I want to work on in terms of adding a few pieces to make my wardrobe a little bit more vintage. So let's head back over and I will kind of let you know what the next steps are gonna be. So that was kind of a look at how my design thought process has sort of changed over the past couple of months to get me to this point where I really want to start tackling some projects that are going to be a little bit more vintage inspired. And as I've mentioned a couple of times, my first one is actually going to be a wilder dress. So that is going to be the dress version of this top that I am wearing. And I do need to kind of hack it a little bit just to make sure that it's going to really fit in with my wardrobe. But we're going to chat about that in the second video. So that is kind of just the introduction to this new series. I wanted to explain why I wanted to start this particular series, and hopefully even if you are kind of here for the bullet journal content, you might stay around for some of the sewing stuff. So I'm going to do my best to not make it super technical on the sewing side, but to really kind of just show you the project as it sort of progresses. This is going to be also really fun for me because I don't really make videos kind of like this that take a lot of time to sort of complete. So I think that this will be a really good experiment for me to see how I like making content like this. So if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know down below. And if you guys have any sort of sewing related videos that you want to see, or if you want to see other like design stuff, I'm honestly super haphazard in the way that I design stuff. Like as you could see in my sketchbook, I have stuff every which way. Like it's not very like structured. It's honestly, that's why I got a sketchbook, was because I wanted to have a place to just kind of throw ideas as I thought of them, and then I periodically will go through and think like, oh, that was a cool idea, why haven't I made that? And you know, either decide no, that was just like a fun exercise, or yes, I actually do want to try and make that. So that is all for today. Again, if you guys have any comments or questions, let me know down below. I'm going to try my best to link the patterns just so that if any of you are sewists and are interested in looking at these patterns, I typically only use indie patterns at this point, so you can find most of them online in like PDF, like you can buy them and print them yourself at home in PDF format. So if you're interested in making any of them, you can check them out down below. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.